Mixed up with channels. Anyway, my name is Tommy. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing about as good as everyone else in the good old earth right now.
Oh yeah. So today, anyway, what we're going to talk about is that thing that starts a bit like coronation, and I'm not talking about coronation chicken, which is probably a bit related anyway, that started this virus. But anyway, what we're going to talk about is obviously the isolation aspect of this virus going on at the moment and how it impacts people's mental health. Last week there, I actually did a video on this topic. You can check that out. I'll link that down below. I covered quite a lot of things just from a different perspective, but today we're going to go a bit more in depth. Ryan, what's your kind of feelings and things? How have you been feeling over it? What have you been implementing and things like that?
So it's fascinating for me. I'm not in as bad a situation as I think a lot of people that are, when I lived in Los Angeles, I would be like living in my apartment, maybe with my roommate there. And you would feel probably a little bit more isolated in that environment where you have like, I think we had like 900 square feet or less together. And if you're someone that lives alone in like a studio apartment setting and you don't have anyone, you're living by yourself completely, the isolation right now, especially if you're under like a stay-at-home order like I am, and I think you are as well, a lot of the most places should be. If you're not, just stay home, just assume you should be. But I think a lot of people, and I've talked to my friend and my other business partner Eric, who has a YouTube channel, who is living like on his own. You get really stir crazy sitting around in your apartment. And right now I'm back home with family. This kind of went on when I decided to head back home before I got really, really bad. So I was like, if I'm isolated, at least I have my family around me. So for me personally, it hasn't been too bad. I think one thing that we can all do, and this is something that I think you mentioned in your video about it, is it's all about perspective. And in a lot of ways, especially when you have something like an eating disorder, like we have dealt with, you already live in this world of some level of fear and anxiety constantly, like all the time, no matter where you're at. It's always that shadow behind you, kind of tag teaming you with it. And so when you have that, for me, one thing that's really, really helped has been the fact that I am with family, because it gives me that other opportunity to just kind of
support network,
have support there. And that's something that I think no matter what situation you're currently living in, you can technically have that with the technology we have now. I would highly, and this is something I wouldn't say a lot except for the circumstances, I would say be online with other people a lot if that makes you less anxious. Because normally I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to say there is that's what's quite a lot of the mental health charities are actually doing at the moment, because you obviously can't see them in person. They're doing a lot of things like Zoom calls, Skype calls. They're even advocating for you to obviously build up a network of people that you know and obviously check in with them constantly. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you seeing like some type of face-to-face interaction at least.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been doing, is even just like checking up on just friends that I know are maybe living on their own, or just even if they're not, I just like to check up on people and make sure they're doing okay, because everyone handles things differently. And I think the best thing you can do is look at it from a different perspective. Like for me, I look at this as, hey, at least climate change isn't getting worse because no one's driving anywhere.
Well, that's true.
So that's
the vegan activists and what is it? What's that climate change group's name again?
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about.
Extinction Rebellion. That's them. They'll be happy at least.
Yeah. So a lot of it is perspective, and I think a lot of times, or at least immediately when I knew this was heading this direction, the first thing I decided what I was going to do is I was going to take more time to do some self-reflecting and some like meditation. And by meditation, I don't mean like doing a lot of oming and weird yoga-y stuff, though I have been doing yoga. What I mean is like just taking kind of quiet time, whether it's just like a minute when you get up every day or sometime in the afternoon, and just sitting there. Maybe it's like in the sun if you have a backyard or a porch or anything that gets a little sun, just going out there, sitting in the calmness and just thinking about something that you are grateful for in this moment, because there's always something to be grateful for, even when crazy stuff is happening. Like, I can guarantee it. And I hate maybe this sounds like a broken record thing, but I always think there's more good going on than bad. And I don't know if that's necessarily like, I don't know. That's just the way I try to think of it.
That's the way you've got to think it, because I think it's like the old saying, I think in a jar half full kind of type thing. It's like, that's the only way you're going to move forward, because thinking that and focusing on all the bad stuff is just going to encapsulate you, and you're just going to end up leading yourself back to where you started.
Right. And so, especially with people that are going through ED recovery during this time, it can possibly either be less challenging or more challenging, because right now you don't have the ability to, quote, challenge yourself by like going out to get a meal necessarily all the time, or something like that. Like, you can still, in a way, like risk it, I guess, and go get pickup, which we've done, or jet. What do they call it? They call it takeout here. What do they call it over there, Tommy?
Oh, right.
There's another word.
Takeaway.
Takeaway, yeah. I like that better. It makes more sense. You take it away. But anyway, but like, you can still challenge yourself to do those types of things. And I encourage anyone that's in that mindset of like feeling a little bit ready to push themselves to kind of go out of their way, and maybe whether it's doing a meal that you just don't normally plan and you make yourself.
It could be a good time to actually break that hurdle, like you're talking about. Maybe a fear food that you've never really conquered. This could be the time to try and work on that, because you're probably going to have a fear food, because there is not a great ready availability of your safe foods in the supermarkets.
Yeah, and right now you don't have a lot of options. Exactly, that's what you're saying. But I think one way to cope with the anxiety of that, for me personally, is meditation. And I don't even do it. I don't sit there for like 30 minutes and listen to like really weird yoga music or something. I literally just sit and I breathe in and out, and I count my breaths for like a minute, and all I do is focus on that. And if I'm just focusing on the breathing, you don't have time to think about being anxious. And that actually brings me to another thing that they've said on the news, like over and over and over again, is a way to help cope with this, is to keep a schedule. Like, actually develop a day-to-day schedule.
That's one thing I touched upon last week. I feel that really, really important.
Like, I get up the same time every day that I was getting up before. And then I just kind of do this, and then I make a little list for the day, and I try to do these things. So I think that's something that's important to do, just for like, it'd be easy. Like, I sat down and I sat on Netflix and I watched Tiger King like everyone else in the world.
I've heard everybody talking about this shit, but I've not seen it.
It is maddening, and it'll make you want to stay in the UK, probably. Right. It'll make you think us Americans are crazy. What's sad is I used to live in that part of the country, and I was like, man, I could see these people doing this. But
I'm going to shock you here. I've never ever seen an episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh my! You really? And your accent does not lend to that at all.
Totally. Probably one of the few that hasn't.
I feel like with Game of Thrones, it's either one of those things you really like, or you're not into it at all. Like, I really like the whole medieval type stuff, so I would like that. That immediately sucks me in, regardless of like the quality of the writing or acting.
I'm more a kind of like DC Marvels type thing, so I like the Flash.
Flash, yeah.
Like that, you know what I mean?
That was great. They had some really. Do you have Disney Plus? Now's a great time to get Disney Plus. If you're out there and you're having a hard time deciding what streaming service you want to get, because there's so many of them right now, for the next like rough 6 months, get all of them, because you're gonna run out if you just have one. Let's face it. I was before this was going on, I was actually filming a movie and in Los Angeles, and the day they decided to lock down and did a stay-at-home order in LA was the day I left. So we finished filming one day before that, and we had like a lot of stuff go awry the last couple of days, because I think by the end of our shooting, we were the only shoot still going on in probably all of Hollywood. Like, everyone else was shut down, and we were just like, man, we don't have a high budget. We just got to finish this mother.
So
So
how
we just
was things on your set? Was there any kind of rules and
So
things?
yeah, so this was interesting. I was like, so because of if people watching this don't know, I have like well actually me and you, Tom, are slightly immune compromised just based on like our health history.
Yeah.
So for the people that are going through ED and that are having this extra like immune suppression going on because of where their health is at, your body is so focused on trying to like maintain and stay alive because it thinks it needs to be keep being refed and that it does. So with that going to set every day, I guess it was difficult. The way I coped with my anxiety was I focused on my job, and that was acting in the movie or helping the DP out with anything they needed on set because we had
a type of distraction, really.
Yeah, so I think honestly distraction was 100% key. But I guarantee you, like every time there was a cut, like everyone just started talking about coronavirus, and so I definitely was making sure that everyone was doing their due diligence, and we were wiping up everything. Like I don't know how we had so many Clorox wipes because they were out of the stores, but we were wiping down, spraying everything, and that was one saving grace. And I brought my own food because I was like, everyone's touching all the craft services snacks over and over. So I was just like, I'm just going to bring my own food because I didn't want to.
You're saying this, the strangest thing, the security guards never even said anything to this woman. This was today, right? I was in Tesco's here where I live, and this woman was going up to all the food, right? And she was going, blowing into her hands like that, and she was going, rubbing her face like this, and then she was touching the food, and then she was putting it back, and then she was deciding if she wanted it, and then she's like that. It's like, I'm thinking, is she disinfected her hands, but she's blowing into her hands to disinfect the food and put it back, but you're actually contaminating the food?
I've seen some of the crazy stories about earlier on you were sharing about all the public transportation and stuff like that. Because I imagine like, especially down, I have cousins that, I know you're not in London, but I have cousins that live down in London area. And like, I mean, they had to shut all that stuff down. And for like the major cities, that's what's been the major problem is because of all the mass transportation, which is awesome. You don't have to own a car. You just take a bus, take a train or whatever. But it's like, that's like a breeding ground of being sick. And I'm trying, by the way, I'm not trying to breed anxiety with this podcast.
Well, it's good to be logical.
But we have to be real. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, it's fine. Go outside, go touch your neighbor in the face and breathe on them. Let them breathe on you. Coexist, hug. Because something. Sorry,
I was going to say the one thing that really kind of bothers me is a lot of people round about here. I don't know if that's something that you see where you are, but they walk about with rubber gloves on, but they're getting onto a bus with these same rubber gloves. They're going for their shopping with these same rubber gloves.
So they're just passing everybody's stuff around. They're just the thing is they're just not thinking about it. They're just not thinking about it. They're just like, oh, I'm wearing gloves. It's good. See, but this is where probably a lot of people that also have ED is like we have this OCD somewhat mindset. So we're observant to all of these things. So in a setting like this, that can actually be a strength. The issue with it is when does it stop? Like when this is over, how much more paranoid are we going to be longer than normal people? And so one thing you need to realize is while there's a certain level of paranoia that I think is just general common sense, it's not necessarily being paranoid, it's just being smart. Like I touched this thing out here, I'm gonna like I went to a store, I get home, I'm gonna wash my hands. Like that's smart. But then there's another level of like always constantly being worried about it. And the problem with constantly being worried is it just spikes your cortisol all the time, and that's not healthy for you at all. So that's why I talk about maintaining a schedule and being busy, because you don't have time to focus on those things. And I think that's something you mentioned a schedule in your video, like you said. But I don't know, are there other things that you've been finding have been particularly helpful for you right now? Because you're kind of in a different, you're in the UK, so it's a little bit different zone than where I'm at, kind of in a spread out city.
Basically what you've talked about, obviously having that support network, my wife and things like that, obviously having my animals, which has forced me to get out, so I'm at least because I've got the dogs, I've got to get out of walks. So the police have actually said that it's okay, you don't really need to abide by the 1 a day walk if you've got multiple dogs. So I'm getting out and I'm getting out into nature. Obviously, nature is really, really good for your mental health. I find that really, really important.
Yeah.
So that's been a big factor for me. Like you said, like trying to focus on the things that I can do within the day, setting a schedule, just sticking to it, going to sleep early, getting up at the same time each morning. That's really, really important. Making sure you get enough food and nutritious food, because like I talked about in my last video, a lot of people are listening to people online that's these gurus saying this is a good time to go on a diet, this is a good time to go on a fast. It absolutely isn't.
No, it's going to lower your immune system more. Like it's I talked to somebody the other day that just got through like a 72-hour fast, and I'm like, I'm like, what are you doing? No, it's not the right time at all. So there's a theory around fasting. I talked about this in an upcoming interview I do on my channel, which is just this name right here, with a Dr. Terry Walls, who has a chronic condition, and she does talk about fasting for certain health conditions and boosting certain like growth factors in your body.
You know what I mean?
But she was quite adamant about saying, don't do it right now. Like, don't do it right now, because all it does is it depletes you, one, of all of the vitamin content in your body, because you're going to go through it. And things like zinc, vitamin C, and those, I think those two are really important to immunity, zinc and vitamin C. But there's like there's a bunch of stuff. The whole point is like
vitamin D as well, but
vitamin D, yeah. But yeah. But the whole point is right now is not a time, especially if you're someone that's already immune suppressed, to suppress yourself more by causing your body to go into kind of a starved state. Like there's no reason to do that at all. In fact, I would highly suggest against it, and I'm not even a doctor. I just know from my own personal experience that it hasn't lent me to any success.
Well, that's one thing to go into. You've actually just done a bit of nutrition as well, so you've been learning that the past few weeks. That's kind of how you've used your time.
Yeah, so that's something that I've been using my time. Is Tommy prompted me to start doing some nutrition certification. So I was doing that the last like 2 weeks. And so I have a basic level nutrition certification, which has really been interesting. And hopefully we can use it to help you guys out there a ton, because I think it's really important to have, if you're someone that's going through ED, you don't just got to go out there and like slam 12 pizzas. Do it one time. And then you don't need to do it again, because then you start building up other habits, which is where I got into trouble later on in my ED recovery, where I was like, man, I need to constantly be binge eating just crap. And that's also not a healthy way to look at it. We all want to find this way back into some sort of moderation, right? So that's something that I think that hopefully down the line we can help provide to you with our nutrition backgrounds, and especially Tommy's extensive experience with that, is being able to help you guys with finding that correct balance, so that you don't either slip backwards or somehow slip really forwards in some other crazy fashion. Because that's something that often happens with people that are going through these disorders, is they go, and I can speak to this from experience. You go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, and you go, and then you get annoyed with being up here. You bounce back and forth constantly, and you create this crash diet pattern.
I think that's a good thing where we've had the experience of it, so we can understand people. We know the struggles you're going through. We can obviously help you use our experience in some way. Not saying that our experience is anything like yours, but can kind of mold things and see certain things that we went through that obviously you are going through, and that can help each other.
Exactly. And one thing I took away from some of the nutrition training that I was going through, and that you already know, is this there's a lot of demonizing on food groups, and this is something that's talked about a lot. And right now is not the time to demonize any of them, because of the situation that we're in. If things get hairy and all you have is like whole wheat pasta, which frankly is a step up anyways, if that's like what you got, like you're definitely going to want to eat it. Like between eating and starving, you should be eating, even if it isn't like the most nutrient dense food that is available, because no matter what, you're nourishing your body with something, and that's going to keep your body from going into this starved state and want to not protect other things because it's only focused on keeping you alive, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think it's focusing on the staples, like the things you can get easily, rice, pasta, oats, eggs. Eggs are sometimes hard to get, especially here, but getting enough milk, making sure you've got bread, things you can make easy meals on that are nutritious, it's going to give you enough calories as well.
Something that I have we stocked up a lot on is we have I'm lucky here because we have like 2 fridges, which is one of the reasons I wanted to come back, is like the house is bigger. I'm not stuck with like a half fridge.
Big chest freezer, so I just like fill that up.
Yep. So we filled everything with like frozen vegetables, like we froze lots of meat. We bought a bunch of canned foods, especially like canned foods that don't go. You want to get foods that just don't perish in a week. Like you can the way I've set it up right now is I'm buying food that I can live weekly, and then I've stocked up on food that'll keep for months in case you get to a point where it's like you can't go anywhere for like 3 weeks. Like you're not allowed to leave your house. Like if it gets to that, then we have that stuff in reserve. So that's why I'm not eating any of the frozen vegetables and stuff I have right now, because if I don't have to, I'm not going to. And some places are worse than others. So if you're in one of those places that are like highly concentrated, like within a city, and you really don't want to go, then yeah, focus on mostly gravitating towards those less perishable things. They're like canned beans. Got a ton of beans. Got beans till the end of days. Like this house will have so much methane in it if we start cracking those open. The whole climate change thing is going to turn on its head.
Mitchell Brown's farms.
yeah, exactly. We could English breakfast it up if we really wanted it to every day for probably the next 6 months, which wouldn't be terrible.
No, definitely not.
But I think those are the things that you should focus on. But I think the less you can focus on any of this, the better. Like the less you spend your time focusing on like do I have enough food? Do I have enough blah? Give yourself like 5-10 minutes a day to think about that, and then the rest of your day do something else. Because
I think we become a bit obsessed with the social media side of things, and the TV constantly. The media is giving us all this information. Some people are talking a load of nonsense. Like I said last week in the video, like I say, if you really need to see about it every day, check in your news once a day for the actual official sources, and then try and cut yourself off the kind of things that are dragging you down, because if you consume too much of it, just like you said, it's going to be detrimental.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing with the news, is that the news and television and even the internet here on YouTube, both social media, any entertainment, even like tabloids, they live on breeding fear. That's because fear gets clicks, fear gets rating, fear gets views. So it's not necessarily that the news is really, and I'm not saying that the news is better than what they're saying, but the reason they're constantly talking about it in a negative fashion is because that's what gravitates people into watch. They feed off it, and that's the way like politicians play on it too all the time. So if you're going to watch the news, and I told my grandparents this too, they watch the news all the time. Watch it once in the evening or once in the, I would preferably watch it in the morning, because if you're watching it before you go to bed, you're not going to get any sleep. Totally. Watch it in the morning. And frankly, I don't even think you need to watch it every day, because yeah, we're learning new things every day, but I guarantee you nothing about your life is going to change substantially for the next several months, because they're not going to develop some sort of vaccine or anything for, they're saying 18 months.
Yeah.
So there's really no point unless you just want to see how many more people are catching it, which I don't think is mentally healthy for anyone. So that's why I'd stay away from that. And if you're going to watch something, you're going to spend your time like watching television, I would generally watch something that is a little more uplifting. Like I've been watching a lot of comedies lately and stuff like that. Like don't go and watch I can't remember what it was like a pandemic type movie. If there's any of those, like don't watch it at all. Like stay the hell away from that stuff.
Things like I Am Legend and all that.
Yeah, like don't watch any of that. Although I did watch Zombieland last night. That was hilarious. That is a preferable outcome. Like if we get some zombies going down, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. Bring it on. But I think as far as pertaining to your mental state, especially if you're someone that is already dealing with high levels of anxiety with eating disorders, keeping busy is probably the best thing you can do. And learning something new, like Tommy was saying, I took this nutrition course, which was the best idea that I heard. Like, thank you for that, because that was something that I could focus on, and it actually is something that now I'll be able to provide value to you watching the podcast and elsewise, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to provide as much value as possible. So the more certification we can have to help you, the better. And so I think if you are to, and there are tons of classes that colleges and universities are offering right now for free. So just go look for them. And I would even take a class, if it's just one, just for interest's sake, because it'll just
a new passion.
yeah. So that's something that I've been doing too. Like I've been trying to get more into video making and stuff like that a little bit. Using the information that I've been garnering through this nutrition class, because I think that's something that can benefit people. So I think between those things, you're able to keep fairly busy. I don't know if there's anything you've been doing. I know you've been working on helplines still for ED stuff.
Yeah.
And what is some things that you have been seeing talking to people that are going through this specifically?
Yeah, well, quite a lot of kind of polarizing effects in certain people. Like I talked about last week, there's some people obviously with eating disorders that are worried of the food scarcity side of things. So what kind of happens with a lot of people with eating disorders, maybe some of you listen to this or have experienced this, but a lot of people tend to, when they see food as being scarce, it will obviously make them restrict.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically feeling, because everybody else around them's maybe not got enough food, or they think they've not got enough food, that means that they're not worthy of having food themselves. So they then start to restrict. It's leading them straight back into their eating disorder.
Right.
Then you've got the opposite end of the spectrum, which is people that have got binge eating disorder. They're concerned because there's a lot of food in the house, and then they're now binging and they're leading themselves back into their eating disorder. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is people that have got OCD, which is a component of anorexia and eating disorders anyway. Yep. Because they're having to be overly hygienic, they're relapsing with their OCD. But I don't want to make this sound negative and everything. Like I say, this does happen, but it's about you being very, very aware of it. And like Ryan said earlier, it's about you reaching out to people, telling them if you are struggling, and know that it's okay not to be okay. Because if you share it with people and you let them know, you're overcoming things before they actually get out of hand. The longer you leave it, the more likely you are for that to become an issue. But yeah, it's just knowing that is there, and these things can happen at this time.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, as I think the biggest part about being successful in recovery, from what I've learned and from what I've observed by talking to other people that we've had on the podcast, is the moment you become self-aware of your tendencies is really when you're ready to start taking action against those things. So if you notice that you are playing into certain behaviors, whether it's binge eating, restricting, being OCD with cleanliness, and one thing is, when you're within your own home, you don't need to wash your hands 1,000 times, because you're the only one touching stuff. Okay. Because I've seen people on Facebook who be like, yeah, I've been home. I washed my hands 200 times today. In your house? Like, no, like, you don't need to do that. Like, it just normal cleanliness is smart. Okay. I'm not telling you like go fart on your hand and then walk around with it all day. But the whole point is like being self-aware. And as long as you're self-aware, know that that's actually progress. If you realize that you're self-aware, give yourself a brownie point, because that is legit progress. And that's when you realize in that behavior, like Tommy said, reach out to someone close to you and talk to them about that, or reach out to someone like us on our Instagrams, at the podcast Instagram or whatever. Leave a comment and let us reach out back to you and really help you through this, because that's what people like us are here to do at the end of the day. I'm not here just to talk about my own vanity. Okay. I do that enough on my own. Thank you. I give myself enough of an ego boost every morning.
And he's growing the James Dean hair here.
Oh, dude, the hair thing was one of the most interesting. I've challenged, like a lot of us, there were a lot of memes going around with like not cutting your bangs or whatever for so many months. And you're gonna grow your hair out, Tommy. I'm gonna make you do it. Yeah, I want to see how long. If I can issue a challenge to anyone watching, just let it grow. Let your locks of love just, and then we can donate it all to charity. That's my goal. I'm gonna see how long it can get. It depends how long this thing goes on. But that's because I've even had these thoughts with my eating disorder of like, oh man, because when this was first going on, first I also want to say there isn't a food shortage. Because right now I can't remember if it was Ireland, some country that produces a lot of the world's potatoes is actually having a problem getting rid of them because they're not selling them to restaurants or bars because no one's going. So if anything, right now there's been an overproduction of food because this virus isn't actually affecting necessarily farmers that are growing food.
No,
because they're already pretty isolated. The problem is they don't have anywhere to put it or get it. So I wouldn't even worry about food shortage right now. When I've gone to the store, there's actually been quite an abundance of food. It's just not necessarily the foods you would want to eat that are clean or safe, which is honestly, going back to ED is probably a good thing that you probably grab some of those. This is the time, boy, to get a box of Twinkies. And I hate Twinkies. But this is the time to do it. It's not going to go bad. And
dip some peanut butter as well while you're at it.
If you have some time, grab some peanut butter and don't worry about it being this is not the time to worry about it being like ingredient wise, just peanut butter and salt. Like just grab some and eat it.
We're going to patent that diet while we're at it. We're going to call it I don't know what we're going to call it.
Basically the whole nut diet.
The whole nut diet. Brought to you by Two Whole Nuts.
But Two Whole Nuts, exactly. They can put our name. We should start a brand of peanut butter that's just called Whole Nut Butter, made by two nuts.
I was going to say we could call it Nutter Butter, but that's already been taken.
Yeah. But in a way, what I've looked at this time as is a time because we have this extra time. It's a time to kind of take a pressure off yourself. You know what I mean? You don't have all of these other things. Now there are people that like even me and like Tommy, like there is like an economic struggle that we're dealing with as far as like monetary income is a struggle thing. But like that's even a more productive thing to worry about than say like the eating disorder stuff. So if you're going to prioritize what you're worried about, I'd prioritize figuring out the income situation, not the food situation, because you're not going to gain anything positive by worrying about the food situation if you have an eating disorder, whereas you can be productive about the other one. So, and in causality, you'll end up making progress with your disorder by not being crazy with it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the way I like to look at it is I like to put it into perspective. Like last week there, as you know, Ryan, I lost one of my friends to it. He was 40 years old. What actually happened with him is he works away like 3 months on, 3 months off in Dubai, and he comes back home to Scotland. He had come back home for his 40th birthday and he was going to the Rangers football match. He did that and then he took not well. And what actually happened was he didn't believe he wasn't well enough. He kept saying to his wife, there's people out there that's dying. He says, the older people are really, really ill. I'll be fine, just leave me. And his wife kept on at him and on at him and on at him. And then the next night, he gradually got worse. And then he got better and they thought he had recovered. And then 2 days later, would you believe it, he massively went downhill right away. And then his wife asked to phone the 111 to get the ambulance out. By the time they did it, it was too late. So the one thing I would say to you if you are struggling and you do have any illness, don't think that you're not worthy of getting help or that you're never not too bad enough, because that happened with him. He seemed to get better and then it went downhill massively. So reach out to people right away. Even if you think it's not that, just be 100% sure that it definitely isn't that.
And make sure other people are aware that you are going through something like that, because they may be that person that suggests you go see somebody that ends up saving your life. There's no point like risking it for everybody. My father is one of those people that refuses to go to the doctor until like the nth degree. He tore his ACL. I remember he was like trying to climb a tree like an idiot. And this is when he was in his 40s. So Tommy, don't do this. I know you don't look it, but you're getting there. You're getting there. You're doing better than my dad was. But
already done in my knee, so I'm
yeah.
there.
But yeah, he just like, I remember he like ran up a tree, twisted like his knee out and like swelled up like a mother, and like was like, no, I'm just gonna wait it off. And like, no, go see a doctor. Okay. So if you're feeling, and the lovely thing is right now we have telemedicine going around. So even if you don't feel like it is COVID, I would call in. And if you have the ability to take your temperature, that's kind of what's going to be one of the defining factors, is if you're getting a temperature. So if you're getting a temperature, definitely call in and monitor that. So that's something to be cognizant of. And this all goes back to just being self-aware. So if you're being cognitively self-aware, you should be okay. But there's no reason to try and be a hero in any of this, because we're all like, even if you do not have an immune suppressed body, like everybody is susceptible to getting it. Like nobody is immune. Like you will get it. Like if I go and I have a friend that has it and he coughs on me, I'm definitely going to get it. Whether now the manifestation of how strong it'll be will be different, but you're definitely going to get it. So there's no point trying to go out there and say that just because I'm 20, I'm less susceptible of getting it, which is not true at all. So, and that's what they're finding. So it's all about common sense, being self-aware. And if you have to Google what common sense is, do it. Because there are a lot of people that think they know what common sense is and they do not at all. And I watch them every single day. I go out on my walks. We do a walk as a family just around the neighborhood every day just to like get some sun, unless it's like really crappy weather. But we noticed but we noticed people congregating, like, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is not social distancing, okay? Just because you're staying at home, like, does not mean have like tons of your friends and neighbors come to your house for a luau, okay? So that's something too, is like, take this social distancing thing serious, and take it a little even more serious if you're somebody that does have some immune suppression like we do. So, and there's nothing restrictive about that. It's just being common sense.
The big problem that's going on here at the moment, this just happened today actually. The Minister for Health, what's her name? I can't remember her name again. She actually came out and said she's been telling people obviously to social distance and that you've not to visit your families and things like that, which we've all obviously had to follow. But yesterday she got snapped by the media going to visit her family, and she was out in the parks hugging people and everything. And it's like she came out and made a statement today saying she was sorry that she wasn't. It wasn't right that she obviously done this, but she doesn't recommend anybody did it, and she apologizes sincerely.
Well, she's sorry she got caught. But I mean, I see it too. Like whenever I watch the press conferences from the president, just talking about the virus, like he's up there with everybody, like shoulder to shoulder. And I'm,
see that?
Oh, is that the Minister of Health?
Yeah, Catherine Calderwood. It says there, Catherine Calderwood, furious Scotch chief medic Catherine Calderwood flouts own COVID-19 lockdown rule, visiting her second home and family and friends. It's like, did she really think the media wasn't going to follow her?
Jeez. But it's interesting because it's like I'm watching these press conferences with the president, and even the reporters that are in the room with him in the White House Correspondence Room are like sitting like directly next to each other. And I'm like, we're supposed to listen to you, right? And you're not doing it. But
Exactly. And that's kind of, I think, what kind of fuels like the conspiracy theory people, because they're saying, oh, well, if these guys are doing it and we're told to not to do it, we're just been led like sheep.
have
So
you seen the conspiracies about the whole 5G thing?
yeah, I've seen all that nonsense. Yeah, it's like, see, the thing is, the 5G masts that I know of that are around here have been sitting here for like 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, and so there, and right now it's also causing all this worry about like EMF radiation, which is like comes from basically if you have any technology in your house, you have EMF radiation.
Exactly.
And so
You're more
worrying about it,
okay.
there's no point even worrying about it because you can't escape it. There's no point. Unless you want to go live in the Boom Hicks in the Appalachian Mountains, which is fine if that's what you want to do. Don't worry about it. Because there's just no point putting that level of worry on you. There's nothing showing that's been clinically shown to destroy your life. So just don't worry about that stuff, because I know that is a legitimate, like, people do worry about that stuff. But there's listen, if this is the time you want to go live alone in the mountains with a shotgun and your dog Charlie, like, go ahead and do it. Like, this is the time to do it. And leave all that EMF behind you. But I bet you'll still be getting some, because no matter where you go, there's a freaking cell tower now. Exactly. So there's almost no point. So the best thing you can do for yourself is focus on the day to day, not get wrapped up in a week from now, 5 weeks from now. Be as prepared as you can be, like we said, with like canned foods and stuff like that. Just be smart, but you don't need to take it to the nth degree. Like, you don't have to go to Costco or Tesco and beat up someone because they grabbed one more roll of toilet paper than you have. Okay. Like,
especially if you live in the UK where they actually make the toilet roll, you don't really need to buy it all up.
Yeah. And like, listen, worst comes to worst, and you have a dog, they take a poop out in the yard every day and they seem okay. So if you have to, at the end of days, human beings at one time did not have toilet paper. We made it. We made it this far.
A big leaf.
A big leaf. A big leaf. I bet you've seen your dog like sit on the ground and like drag themselves. Okay, yeah. I bet you can figure it out.
Exactly.
So I think there's a level of urgency that is healthy, and there's a level of urgency that's over the top. And if you're one of those people that you find yourself watching these conspiracy videos, or you find yourself watching the news more than half of your day, be cognizant of that and realize that that's not healthy, and take a step back.
That's exactly it.
And me personally, I just stay away from it, because if I get into it, I'm one of those people that goes down the rabbit hole. So I'm just not even going to watch it at all. And so sometimes it's best to just stay away.
That's the recipe for success.
Yeah. So surround yourself, even virtually, with people that you find are supporting you and your goals, and especially with your eating disorder things. Reach out to people that know what you're going through, and those are the people that you are going to want to stick close to. Is what I would say.
Yeah. And like we said earlier, try to get the exercise that you can get. And like I say, the one thing I would say to you is, don't focus too much on the exercise, because that's one thing I said last week in my video. At this time, because people can't get to gyms and things like that, there's been a lot more pushing for people online constantly bashing us about exercise classes, this, that, and the next thing. Like, be cognizant of the fact, like Ryan said there, be cognizant that if you have an exercise addiction that does go hand in hand with eating disorders, don't let it get out of hand. Like, try and like focus on what the things that you can do that's not going to send you straight back into that type of.
And this goes back to having a schedule. Like, I work out 4 times a week per Tommy over here has told me to do. And so I work out 4 times a week. I do what's written down. And I think the best thing you can do is, if you are someone that is at that point in their recovery where they feel like they can do some exercise, it doesn't even have to be complex. Like today, after this, I'm going to do yoga with my family, and it's going to be cringy as hell. But it's not like a killer workout. It's not like I'm done sweating. I'm a little bit more limbered up. But the point is, just be like, don't sit on the couch all day. That's not healthy for anybody. Like you
No,
don't need to just sit on your butt.
mentally and physically.
But you don't need to be running up and down the stairs 20 times like I was doing when I was in the breadth of my anorexia. Like there's nothing positive about that. So if you find yourself doing that and you realize that you're like going up and down the stairs for no reason and you're not like achieving anything, you're not like going to get something, or you're going to get something menial like 5 times a day, be cognizant that that's probably a problem. And one, you're not even burning as many calories as you think you are. And two, it's just feeding into your OCD behavior. So as long as it's scheduled, that's why I say have a schedule, a daily schedule. If you have something scheduled, make that your scheduled 30 minutes of like doing a walk. I'm going to take a walk, 20-minute walk around my neighborhood, one time around the block. That's all I do. And that's what I've been doing, is just like once around the block with my family to get some sun once a day. And if it's a bad day out, then hell, I'm just not going to do it. So,
and if you want any help with that, anybody at all, just reach out to me. I'll gladly help you free of charge. Like I say, I just want to help people, but I can help you set something up that you can obviously do that's not going to be detrimental to you as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that I want to, I don't know, I think we've kind of spouted some decent information. Do you want
to I hope this has been kind of informative for some of you. It's gave you some ideas. If there's anything that you would like us to cover, please let us know down in the comments below. Let us know what you took away from this that would really help us. What have you got to say, Ryan? Anything else that you would?
I would just say something that we are actively working on right now is developing some sort of nutritional aid for people, especially going through eating disorders and just any type of, for me, any type of chronic illness, because it's definitely a different catered approach. And I think with our experience, and now that I have some level of certification, I think that we're going to be working on down the line. We're hopefully going to be able to plan out this week some way that we can help you achieve where you want to do and where you want to be in a healthy way that's managed, and that's what's the word? Well, managed, but moderate. It's not like some sort of extreme weight loss program. Exactly. So if there's anybody touting those things, the point is we want to keep it simple. Exactly. Because simplicity is really the key. The minute things get complex is when you know you're going down the wrong road. It's not that complex. People have lived thousands of years without having to think complexly about it. So there's no point to start now. And that's kind of what we want to bring, is simplicity back to nutrition, health, and all that stuff. So that's something that we'll be working on. If you have any questions about that kind of stuff, just write a comment down below. Hit us up.
So thanks everybody for joining in. We'll speak to you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and goodbye. And we'll speak to you all soon.